Fair enough. Trent asks, Law Speaker Allen, could you please explain the importance of elevating our discourse? Why do our spoken words matter so much?
Okay, to continue my one-man campaign against low speech, if you get when you get this month's runestone, you'll see my challenge for everybody to raise their discourse. It's called low speech for a reason. Higher discourse is the noble speech. It's the idea that and of course there are several spiritual reasons for it as well. If you believe, as I do, that Galder changes the world, what you know is that your spoken word that's where your will manifests into the world. So when you speak with vulgarity, when you speak profanely, you are profaning your world. You are vulgarizing your environment. So it's important for you to speak with the highest level. It's only been a few decades when white people were known to curse as freely as we do now in public. And, I remember years ago when it was said of various comedians that they couldn't work the big rooms because back then it was called working blue. If you used sexual innuendo and certainly foul language, that you weren't even allowed in the big venues because it was seen as to be beneath polite society. And I don't think that we, as Asatru, although certainly a lot of us come from that background, myself to some degree included, where we had to sort of portion ourselves up through the school of hard knock. Certainly, there's I'm not a prude about these sorts of things, but the idea of it is to always present your highest self, knowing that your grandmother is with you over your shoulder. Your gods watch you not as closely, but they certainly know whether you are presenting the highest possible light to those around you. So part of it certainly is just the personal, that you should always be your highest and best self. And part of it is that you are, for most of us, for the rest of the world out there, we are the only Asatru, or we're the only Odinist that they know. And so if they think of us as a bunch of foul-mouthed brigands, then they're not going to want to be associated with that in any degree. But if they think of us as polite, well-spoken, helpful, all the things that we really are and really should be, then we'll begin to attract more and more, as we have over the last few years. So it's both a sales pitch and a personal means of displaying integrity.
And I think that's very important. Linguistically, I think I fall short with the foul language sometimes, and Alan is sure to correct me on that frequently, and it's much appreciated. I agree 100%. I got loose with it when I was in the bar industry bouncing, and in that environment, it was just so commonplace,
pervasive. And I did. I worked in the bar as well, so again, I just got in the habit.
Well, so one time I ended up taking my mother to a doctor's appointment on a Saturday morning, and I had been working the bar Friday night and didn't get much sleep. And I was still in that mode when I was at the doctor's office, and I was with my mother at the doctor's office, just dropping F-bombs here and there, left and right, like it was nothing. And all of a sudden I heard myself, and I was so embarrassed, and I had to apologize to the doctor. And it really made me look at myself critically, because for a second there, I, heard the words coming out of my mouth, and it was so out of place.
And for a lot of us, it's just, you can have that one moment of realization, and you can snap to.
Absolutely.
Begin the course correction.
Well, one of the things is when you try to hold yourself to a higher standard, whatever that may be, if it means fixing your language or holding your head up and looking people in the eye when you talk to them, or speaking with a higher level of discourse, using high value words instead of commonalities, using, proper language instead of, you can still be scathing and insulting if you need to in a more clean and certainly more creative manner. But those kind of things, when you act a certain way, when you dress a certain way and you try to project something, it fundamentally changes how you do things. You carry yourself different. You have a different, not only do other people respect you differently and more, but you respect yourself differently and more. And I've seen that a lot in the AFA as we've tried to tighten up on some of those things. Finn Wraith asks, is there anything in the myths that said we shouldn't curse? I think the idea that we shouldn't curse because it makes our believers look bad is only if the person we're talking to sees swearing as bad. Couple of thoughts on that, and I'm sure Alan's got thoughts on that as well. His first point that Alan made that I think stands with this, the root of magical act is incantation. It's speaking things into existence. The act of speaking is what takes thoughts and ideas from the privacy of your head and manifests them into the world, into our shared space. And I think you certainly want more good things than negative things when you're doing that. Speech, you're right in a sense that speech only has context based upon meanings that we ascribe to words. Sorry, my daughter has broken in my office here and is causing some chaos. No, but our words only have meanings based on the meanings we've assigned to them. But we can navel gaze about that all day. At the end of the day, our words do have meanings, and there is a perception that happens. And so much of our speech isn't just about the one person we're conversing with. There's almost always there's people looking on. There's an audience, whether we know they're there or not, and they make judgments about us. They make judgments about how we look, about how we speak, about how we present ourselves in general.
And I think it's also true that, a couple things like the lore we don't think of as a comprehensive source anyway. There's not a list of thou shalt nots because it's just an example for the way that we live. And there's certainly not any place in the lore where Egil Skallagrimson, curses at people, except with the intent of casting a curse on them. And that's really what that's the thing of it, is if, and I don't even like to use examples, but, to like the GD remote controls lost. Okay. I don't want the All-Father to curse my remote control because it happens to be missing right now. That's just idle speech. And the other thing that while I was formulating these ideas these many years ago, I spoke with a guy who's one of the leading scholars on the Anglo-Saxon tribal era. And he confirmed that the Anglo-Saxons would, during that pre-Christian era, would not have cursed an object because they think their words have intent. They wouldn't waste like this manifesting power of the web of weird and use it to, because their tire went flat or, because the wheel came off. That's just not, that's not worthy of that sort of that level of discourse. So it has both the practical and the spiritual aspect. And certainly if you're alone with your buddy and, and he's, but he's also going to notice that you're speaking in the higher tone, which doesn't mean that you have to be a prude about it. I mean, you can speak to your audience. Absolutely.
Well, and so
it's not a prohibition, it's a goal.
Well, I think what you're saying though about intent is very important. And I think that comes into polite speech as well. I think when you wish someone luck, that has a meaning, and it's gotten to where it's just a figure of speech now, but we should hold ourselves to intent. And if you wish someone luck, you genuinely should be willing to break off a chunk of your luck and grant it to them.
Right.
You know, when you say you're welcome after somebody says thank you, are they welcome? Or did they grossly inconvenience you and you don't want them to do it again?
Right.
Don't say you're welcome unless you mean it. I think all of that is very important. The other thing is, despite whatever, you know, philosophizing we want to do, cursing's bad, and you look crass and low class when you do it. You look much better when you speak elegantly and with more respectful verbiage.
And it's just over the last 30 or 40, 50 years that crass, low culture has become predominant. And it used to be that the whole goal of civilization was to try to elevate people out of crass, low culture, you know, whereas now it's been celebrated, you know.
So much of the meaning of Aryanism is being noble, and not just being noble, but shining with nobility. And that means how you present and you project that nobility. Holding yourself to a higher standard is always better than holding yourself to a lower standard. And I'm sure we can come up with intellectualized arguments to try to make it okay in certain contexts, but we're always better served holding ourselves to something higher and something better.
Big time.
Libre Algies von Gell, are you sure about what you describe as higher language? Being able to properly use the F word in Haiti and Kinnings requires a keen intelligence. Yeah, really crass gangster rap is often very impressive in its rhyme scheme and its intelligence, but it's not what we aim for and it's not our target. There's ways to be very artful in rhyming things with curse words, but we're better than that. We know we're better than that.
Right. We could hit those same insults without, you know, scraping the bottom of the vocabulary. There are a lot of adjectives out there.
You know, it's something, and I don't want to assume anymore because in 2022 I can't assume this, but you know, I'm tempted to say you wouldn't say that stuff around your parents or your grandparents. Why not? And if you wouldn't say it around your parents and your grandparents, why are you saying it in front of our gods and folk? And I think it bears consideration. And if you would say those things around your parents and your grandparents, shame on you. Sierra asks, why should we not use weird and strange, peculiar instead? Was this already asked? It was not already asked. Alan, pontificate.
Okay, this is part 2 of my verbalization manifestation. Weird, the word weird, the English, the current usage of it originates from Shakespeare. The weird sisters in Macbeth, you know, but when Shakespeare used that in the play Macbeth, the 3 weird sisters stirring the pot, the people in that era, the 1600s, would have known they were still living in the era when weird to them meant the same thing, much the same thing as the karma. You know, it's the orlog. So they would know that because they were so living so much still in the folk way, the weird sisters were the sisters who made weird in the pots. You know, we think of them as weavers, but certainly the, you know, stirring the pot, stirring the well of weird, you know, was very much the same thing. So but that word then just over the eons of usage came to mean anything that was strange, odd, unusual. You know, look at those weird people. You know, look at those weird women up there on the stage stirring those pots. Yeah, they are the weird women. They're the weird sisters. So, oh, then this other stuff is weird because it's strange, odd, unusual. But weird is a holy word. Weird, our weird, is the manifestation of the of our luck. It's very much akin with karma. It's sort of like karma mixed more with intent. we make our own weird by the way that we work in the world. So I I try to steer folks off using that word weird in the profane or vulgar sense. The both because it is a holy word, and because by steering off that word, you can think of all the other 72 synonyms of that mean strange, unusual, coincidental. Now, at the same time, that's not to say that there aren't things that are strange or coincidental that aren't weird. I mean, some of those things are weird. I was coming back from Panama City one day and ran into one of my good friends out there who was with his club, and so that was weird. That was a weird coincidence. But weird things that happen are the very few and far between. Not every dog standing on his front paws is weird. That's just good training. So it's just part of speaking mindfully. Weird is not everything. Weird is a holy place.
It's also really good balance. If a dog can stand on its front feet, that's pretty impressive.
It is. Got a good owner.
Or it may just be inherently a very special dog with good balance. It may also not have back legs. That said, no, I think that's really important, and it's about the intent in speech. Not only is it wrong to use holy words casually, but it also trains us to recognize when something truly is weird. And that's important.
Okay, now you've added to my lexicon there.
There you
Reason
go.
number 14 why you shouldn't say weird.
So yes, if we put our best foot forward in everything we do, we're always better off. Anything else is just an excuse to not try that hard. And I don't mean that rudely. That's just very much what it is.